So we were talking last time about how even if your business is not doing so well, you have to stick to it and not be worried, because if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give you, he can give you any way he wants. And your job that you chose, you decided that it's good for your personality, it's good for your schedule for learning and praying, so don't switch it. Why ruin it just because you think you need to get a different way of parnasah? Hashem can give you this way also. So stick to your job. Okay, then now we're going to switch over to preserving your health. Same thing we're going to say about health and illness. We said last time, a person cannot say, oh, if I'm supposed to live to 120, I'll smoke, drink, overeat, not watch my health, not exercise, and Hashem will make me live till 120 regardless. No, there is ishtadlut, there is efforts to be put to take care of your health as well. You're obligated to protect yourself and follow the laws of ishtadlut, efforts that should produce that you should be healthy. Likewise, if a person's sick, he has to not ignore it. There's ishtadlut to also take care of your sickness. You have to treat it. Whatever is normal and considered natural to treat your sickness, you have to do it. You can't just ignore yourself and say, oh, if Hashem wants to heal me, he'll heal me even if I don't put any attention to my sickness. No, you have to take care of it. And even when you do take care of it, you take the Tylenol, and you do rest, and you take this antibiotic that the doctor gave you, whatever it is. At the same time, when I do this ishtadlut, just like work, I go and I work, but I believe the blessings from Hashem. I go and I do these ishtadlut, these efforts of health, and I believe that ultimately the health is through these things are just conduits through Hashem's health that He's sending me, His bracha He's sending me. Shehen mo'ilot u'mazikot ela bershut haboreh. They only help these causes of health and illness. They only help and harm because Hashem gave permission. And what happens? Kasher yiftach boreh yarpeu mechalyo b'siba b'ti siba. And when a person relies on his Creator, Hashem will heal you of your illness, with or without medical means. As it says, Ishlach dvaro v'yirpa'em. This is Tehillim chapter 107. He will dispatch His word and heal them. So you see that Hashem has the power to heal just with His word. Hashem could heal you with a very difficult medicine that has a lot of side effects and will harm you on the way. But at the end of the day, that's how it works. Like Hashem could choose to heal you that way, or He could heal you with something that doesn't hurt at all, or He could heal you with no medicine whatsoever. All depends on the person's bitachon. Right? Like the story with Elisha in the foul waters of Jericho. Then what? Elisha, on the instruction of Hashem, how did he heal these waters? He put a lot of salt into them. Hashem told him to put salt, and salt made it very bitter. Nonetheless, it made it that it was drinkable afterwards. So thing with Moses in the wilderness, right? They went to Mara and they found bitter water over there. Hashem showed him a tree, which was also a bitter plant. It was the hardefuni plant, right? And he threw it in there, and it became the bitter with the bitter made sweet somehow. So you see that Hashem showing many times, you think that this will not work, I'll show you how it works. Because it doesn't have to make sense. And ultimately, the salvation comes from my word. If I say it should be, that's what makes it. Not because it makes sense logically on its own. It doesn't have to make sense. As long as I say it, that's what makes it work. On the other hand, you know what happened to King Asa. And we know the opposite. Those cases where the medicine worked was what? Was because they did the ishtadlut, but they realized it comes from Hashem. So it worked, even though it was a bitter plant with a bitter water. Or it was salt into the water, made it drinkable. But in the case of Asa, King Asa, he relied on the doctors only and not Hashem so much. So it ended up being that he got hurt. He became lame for the rest of his life. He lost his legs. So you see that if you rely too much on the doctors, too much on the medicine, so it doesn't have any bracha. Even though it makes sense that it should work. But when you use a medicine that's unconventional, and it doesn't make sense that it should work, But because you had bitachon on Hashem, then it does work. So you see, ultimately, we have to do ishtadlut and realize it comes from Hashem. Now it says, what's the next part that bitachon applies? He says, Perush Chelek Hasheni hu inyane kinyane Adam misibat orfo b'fnei hasaka b'nischar b'lachav. It says the second category where bitachon applies. Until now, we were just discussing the first category, basics, in regards to livelihood and health. Now we're moving on to the next level of bitachon. Second category is that relating to a person's assets and his source of livelihood and his occupation and his transportation, his hired work, his accounting, his credit, his services, his journeys, and finally, his luxuries. How do you approach all of these situations with bitachon? Ofnei yosher bitachon b'hem elokim. The correct way to apply bitachon in these matters is שיתעסק במה שזימן לו הבורא מהם לצורך ציפוקו ומזונו להגיע אל מה שיש בו די מן העולם. He says that a person goal should be, whenever he's dealing with business and dealing with advancing his financial status, it should be to the extent of obtaining his essential needs. You know, during COVID, everybody had to be essential, to be open. If it's not essential, you weren't allowed. Same thing, that should be your attitude when it comes to business. Should I be looking to make $1 million in my life every year? Well, or $10 million or $100 million? What is your goal and what are you striving for? Well, it depends. What do you need $1 million for? Or $10 million for? Oh, I want to be able to go on 5 vacations every year. I want to be able to drive a very fancy car. I want to be able to buy whatever clothes I want. I want to be able to, go out to eat every other day. That's what I want. Says the Chovot Halevavot, you're going to be working hard every day and you're going to be pushing yourself really hard to make that money to sustain something that you don't really need. It's not essential. And if you're going to kill a lot of your time to chase non-essential things, you're wasting your time basically. That's not really what bitachon says to do. Bitachon says what? Having trust in God and believing God says, focus on essential. Oh, if you really break it down, to raise a family of 5 and send them to yeshiva and to have a house and have a car that fits everybody and that's normal and that does the job right and to buy normal clothing and not look like a poor man, then I only need $200,000 a year. I only need $150,000 or I only need $80,000 a year, whatever it is. So then that's what you should be going for. That's what you should be striving to. And once you reach that, you should be happy. But a lot of people, they set their bar, I want to make crazy amounts of money because I have to sustain all these luxuries. That's not having bitachon on Hashem. That's serving yourself. That's called wasting your time for Olam Hazeh and missing out on a lot of time for Olam Haba. So, it says Chovot Halevavot, he says, but we see some people very wealthy. So how do they become wealthy? He says there's such a thing, could be, that a person puts his goal for make $80,000 a year, and Hashem blesses him that he makes more. But that wasn't his initial goal. That wasn't his intention. So he says, should we focus on your necessities? And if Hashem decrees that you should have extra, it's okay, no problem. That's fine. But lo yarbeh lechazer lasibot. He should not seek additional avenues to obtain this extra income. V'lo yismoch aleim belibo, and he should not rely on such avenues in his heart. So it comes out that if you get extra, okay, that's great. If you don't, that's also fine. But to say, I need to have that extra, I need to focus on getting all those extra things, he says that's not called serving Hashem. That's called serving yourself. He says, for example, what's considered going out of your way to get extra? People working overtime. They work longer hours, right? Or they take a second job at night. They say, I have to make extra money. Or they make their spouse work when their spouse doesn't really have to work because they want to make more money, right? He should not think in his heart that if I would have worked harder, I would have earned more. Because that contradicts trusting in Hashem. He should believe whatever extra money he's destined to obtain, he will get it, even doing his ordinary efforts that he does to get a basic living. So therefore, you see that most of the time, why do people suffer and people are so busy with work? And most of the time, people are not happy what they have. It's because they're not realistic. they're setting the bar for themselves so high, they have to obtain all these luxuries. If they would have been happy with what their basic necessities are, they most likely would have had a lot of money for tzedakah. They would have been happy with what they have. They wouldn't have to work crazy hours, and they would have plenty of time to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu. Amen.